Good morning. So here we go with our synchronous and an asynchronous lesson today as I'm recording this to post for you. So today we get to talk about TED Talks, specifically how they're formatted, what things that TED Talk speakers do to make a multisensory approach as far as their performances go. Long story short, going to give you some more ideas on how to set up your speech, your online presentation. Let's show you what this is going to look like on your handout. So let's see, we're scrolling down to task 3. Hopefully yesterday you got all of this sketched out, but if not, you have some time today. So today I'm going to tell you about the TED Talk formula. You're going to choose the 2 steps you feel are the most important in it and explain why. So I've written that out, I hope, fairly simply. The step that is most important in the formula is, why I think it's most important, and then another step that's important in the TED Talk formula and why I think it's important. As per usual, this grading is not on perfect sentences. It's on seeing your thinking and learning. Then I'm going to teach you a little bit from chapter 8 of Gallo's Talk Like TED book. So more ideas about how to get multisensory experiences into your presentations. So you're going to write one idea of the many I'll tell you, and then why you chose it. And then that is it for today. Keep it simple. So let's talk about this stuff. So again, here's the 2 books I'm taking today's information from, and those are available to you in the room if you'd like to use them. All right, so here is the TED Talk formula. And as I just said, you're going to pick 2 of these steps I'll go over that you think are most important and why. So the first step is one that we've used quite a bit in Speech 1 and Speech 2, which is choose a topic you care about, you know really well, or that you just find fun. Don't pick things because you think it'll impress me. I don't think there's a lot of that going on, but pick something you care about because it will work for this presentation. It's really open what you do for this as long as you make it for an online audience. For example, one thing I realized yesterday I should have added for a topic possibility for you is cancel culture. Many of you wrote quite passionately and well, I might add, on this topic. You could easily make your online presentation discussing your thoughts on that. All right, so that's step 1. Pick a topic you know or care about or will find fun. If you're bored, you're boring. Just pick something you know and care about. Second, you need to make a clear message, purpose, and context for your topic. Be really clear. I would even state it. Be really clear what your presentation is for. Is it meant to be entertainment? Should we learn from it? Are you trying to persuade us? Make it real clear. Like I had said yesterday, for context, if you are referencing current events, you need to make those clear too. Proper nouns, dates, that kind of thing. So if someone is watching this later, they can still join in and understand what's happening. Third step of the TED Talk formula is define a key takeaway for your audience and weave that throughout your presentation. For example, if I'm doing my online presentation on tips for future Falcons for the 9th graders coming in, I could have a key takeaway, which is high school goes by fast and it's what you make of it. And I could say that again and again. Or instead of just repeating it, I can rephrase it and put it throughout my presentation. This one, step 4, we talked about a little bit yesterday. So it works better to, first of all, draft this in storyboarding. And then second, think of storytelling elements no matter what your topic is. As you recall, the brain really responds to storytelling. So the more of that you can get into your presentation, the better. So these are things like not only pantomime or persona, those techniques, these are also things like keeping in mind what the audience needs to know to move to the next part of your presentation. 5, we talked about yesterday, but they add a different word that some of you may be like, what? So tailor visuals to your audience, right? To your story, and then they add to your brand. I'm not as worried about that grading wise for you because this is a school assignment. You don't really have a brand. I shouldn't say that actually. Maybe you do. Maybe you do some online presentations already. Just keep in mind that you want everything to look like it represents you. That's the easier way to put it. Be you. Number 6, practice, practice, practice. For filmed presentations, I wouldn't recommend practicing like we do for in-person presentations, where you use your rough draft and final draft and you go over it. I would suggest instead refilming. That's often how practice happens when you are making an online presentation. So when you watch a take, if there's something wrong with it, do it again, fix it. That's how you practice. All right. Now, that being said, number 7, it's okay to show your flaws. And this surprised me in the TED Talk formula because they seem so polished. But what they mean by that is a couple little mistakes are expected. Keep in mind what you learned in speech 1, which is the audience is paying attention to you, but not as much as you may think. Okay. So it's expected you'll have a couple word stumbles, for instance. I do that every day, and this is my job. All right, so that was the TED Talk part. I'm going to pause a moment so you can write at least 2 things that you think are the most important of the things I just said. So let's go back to that screen. That would be helpful. So take a moment, write 2 of the things you think are most important and why they're important. Go ahead and put that on your handout, and I'll move on to chapter 8 next. If you're wondering, we ran out of coffee mugs, so I'm using this for my coffee. You got to adapt. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about multisensory. Yesterday, I had mentioned that you need to have an appeal to at least 2 senses, and typically it's visual and auditory. Let's give you some more on that. So, you want to make mental pictures and multisensory experiences for your audience. So, a couple key tips for that, things to keep in mind. First off, brains are more captivated when more than one sense is being engaged. And you know this from class. If you have teachers that literally have no visuals and just talk at you, I don't think we even have any like that anymore. It's not as engaging as when you combine the talk with the visuals. It is recommended that you use pictures and visuals more than text. Unfortunately, this slide is not a good example of that because I'm trying to be asynchronous for students who may not be watching the video. But for your presentation, pictures are better. If you have text, keep it to keywords. And you know this from class. Don't read it word for word. You can point out a couple keywords. You can also have a visual up there with like text, a couple keywords that you don't reference. They're just a way for the audience to have signposts of what you're talking about. For your online presentation, you are not required to be in the video. Let's be clear. I said you had to have 2 shots. If you prefer to have pictures and visuals with a voiceover, that is absolutely fine. So if you're not really loving you on camera, this is a way to get off camera and still be within the confines of the assignment. So the TED book recommends including touch as one of the multisensory experiences, which made me go, how do you add touch into an online presentation? Like reach toward them in the screen? That's creepy. Here's what they mean by that. So whenever you can, include props, visuals, or cues that include thinking of touch or using it. So for example, if you're giving a demonstration on how to bake a cake, stirring, pantomime, all of those kinds of things, that counts as touch because it's a multisensory experience. All right. Finally, only include things that help reinforce your main message. And of course, that's for every presentation. So I'm going to pause on this slide so you can write on your prompts on the week 1 handout. I believe this is the last slide, but let's double check. Yes, I have included this week optional resources if you need just a visual of some of these things. Storyboard drafting. This is where I got the storyboard that I adapted. I changed it slightly, but it's by Jamie Shanks. So this is a link to him explaining how to storyboard. And then here's more about the TED Talk formula. I've also included the TED Talk site if you're wanting to watch some of those presentations. Really good examples of online presentations. So that's what I have for you today. I'm going to put this back on online presentation ideas, just in case if you're still struggling, you need to find yours. So you lovelies have the rest of the time to work on getting this week 1 handout completed and in. And as per usual, I'm here if you got questions. Send me a message. You got this.